I think we all have a point of impact in life, just a substantial impact that it could be trauma, it could just be something that's happened or transpired that basically impacted you in such a way that you're just vulnerable, you're open to and susceptible to the enemy spiritually coming into your life, kind of knocking you while you're down, basically. My name is Eric Davidson, U.S. Army vet. I mainly work as a chaplain counseling veterans with PTSD. I've helped develop programs and just resources that help aid and help veterans recover from PTSD. I joined the Army August 8, 1995, just carrying on the heritage, the legacy of my family. It seemed to me like a good opportunity to serve God and just kind of be there in the trenches. So I enlisted pretty young, even though I had aspirations of becoming an officer. I enlisted basically to pay for my college so I can accomplish that. When 9/11 happened, it was probably a little bit different for us than others. I was at Fort Stewart at the time, so we were a rapid deploying unit. We were already on alert. So it wasn't until later on that night that we got the full story and saw it, in front of us. We had deployed January of 2002. So just 3-4 months after 9/11. And we spent a lot of that time in Kuwait. We did fire missions and support missions. We were kind of in and out of other places. But when I went into Iraq, we were of the first people. We left in the middle of the night. We were definitely there before anyone really knew about it on the news. So everything was pretty intense still. We haven't made it to Baghdad yet. And there was a lot of vehicles in the convoys. So, everyone's in MVGs. You're driving sand, dust is kicking up. They had dust stormed like a biblical proportion. It was just crazy. There were a couple incidents. Artillery hit, like a 155 round hit in the back of the truck, and I had kind of a blast injury that happened from that. I had my MVGs on, lost my sight, lost consciousness. I got 105-degree fevers after that. So that's probably the first impact where I feel like my brain had gotten some damage. But then there was also an incident where we had a 500-pound bomb drop on our AO, and that blast injury from that alone probably could have done it in and of itself. So for me, my point of impact was definitely the night that we faced friendly fire. We didn't know it at the time, but a 500-pound bomb dropped on our AO, which happened to land on 3 vehicles, one being the ammo vehicle. So at the time, the truck's firing off 50 cal rounds, spraying everywhere. Everyone's trying to get in the Hasties and the foxholes. And we didn't know what was going on. We thought we were being attacked at the time, but everyone's trying to recover from the blast. And, unfortunately, 3 of our guys were in the blast radius itself, and there was really not much left of them. And everyone else was on the outskirts, kind of blown out. And a lot happened. So in that time, man, we're questioning everything. It was a point of impact for me actually in the physical, but also the emotional, but most of all the spiritual, because that's when you question everything. You got people on fire in front of you. We had 4 other soldiers dismembered at the time. We're trying to drag them out, apply tourniquets, and do everything we could to save them, looking for the guys that we never would find in the fire. At the time, what stuck with me the most is I'm walking, the smoke had cleared, everything was kind of burnt down to the ground, and I'm literally picking up the pieces. And I just look down on the sand and I see these pages I didn't know what it was, and I go to pick it up and it's pages of a Bible, just kind of half burned and blowing in the wind. And when I go to pick it up, there's a stinking finger on the ground, and I had picked it up at the same time. I'm like, good Lord. And I throw the thing and I curse the air. And I felt like that stuck with me the most, because it's kind of the moment where I felt like I turned from God, where I was like, really, God? Are you here? You can't possibly be here right now. Why would you be here in the midst of this hell? This to me looks like hell. So for me, that was my point of impact. I think what affected me the most in life, because when I got home, that's when I really began to process what happened. Because, you shove it in the backside of your head while you're there, because you got to drive on. It's war. So for me, coming back to the States after 2 back-to-back deployments, it was a very lonely time for me. So I drank. and I partied, and I tried to do everything opposite from what my heart was. I also was trying to hide a lot of my injuries at the time, so it was just a very dishonest time of my life. I felt like I wasn't myself. I wasn't true to who I am. I'm lying to leadership, saying, no, I'm fine. I come back, get my assessment, physical assessment, and I'm like, no, yeah, I had this happen, but it didn't affect me. I seemed fine. But then everything just kind of came falling down on me, because one day I'm driving a bus full of cadets, and we're on the side of a mountain. I have a seizure. I'm like, they tend to me, long story short, I end up at Walter Reed because there's no more hiding it. That's basically when, I think it was about a year later, everything came out as TBI. But it changed everything for me. I didn't know who I was as a soldier, what I can accomplish anymore. It affected my faith because I'm like already a walking contradiction. I kind of lost hope, at the time. And so for me, that was the struggle. Do I even have a future? Is this going to get worse? Are they going to fix this? But thankfully I had my wife, we weren't married at the time, but she became my caregiver, and we got married within a year. And thankfully I had her because she took care of me for about 7 straight years as my caregiver. And if it wasn't for that and that grace that she shown through that and that love she showed me, I wouldn't have got through it at all. So that was my saving grace.
When Eric and I first met, I had no idea that I would be a caregiver. In the beginning, when we first met, he wanted to keep his career. He wanted to be in the military, in the Army for 25 years, and that was what he was looking to do. But over time, when we found out that he had a traumatic brain injury, we found out that he was having seizures daily, migraines daily.
I had 4 to 5 seizures a week at that point. And it just got so bad, it was out of control, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I had to kind of put my hands up in the air at the time and let go. And that was tough. It took a good 7 years of just learning the hard way. Of course, I'm on a ton of medications at that. I'm on like 2,500 milligrams of this and that and tons of medication. And I'm not really all there. I'm kind of catatonic at some points, having so many seizures. But I'd cry out to God. I'd cry out to him the whole time. And I think he met me there. Knowing the soldier I was, knowing the war-torn soldier I was, knowing that it was tough and I had physical ailments playing against me, he didn't care. It's like, hey, I got you. I'm here for you. And knowing that he was there and his presence was there, even in the midst of that, started to show me that, wait, maybe you were there in war. Maybe you were there when it was that bad. So I began to really pray again. I began to ask him and seek the word again. I'd be reading the word day and night. It began to literally renew my mind. Before I was trashing my mind. Now I'm filling my mind with the word of God. And the fruit of that started to happen. Literally, the fruit of that was healing. So I began to see things just kind of peel off me. Just layers peeling off of me. Everything changed. And I began to commit my life to the Lord and start working in ministry again. Got my education done. Accomplished things I couldn't do before. Started working as a chaplain. And that's what led me to where I am today.
From the point that Eric and I met, I really believe God brought us together for the healing journey. Shortly after we met, I got saved. And we began to see restoration and healing emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so when he was diagnosed with melanoma, I think it was about 6 years into our marriage, we were blindsided. It was unexpected. We were in a really great season. We were doing ministry, and it was surprising, almost shocking.
So I was diagnosed with melanoma 6 years ago. It was stage 3, and he needed to get me in immediately and track it to the lymph nodes and make sure it didn't go to my organs. So I was in surgery within a week, and everything was very quick. But we weren't in fear. We never once worried about it, although it did escalate. We're in this emergency surgery I was under for like a few hours. And for whatever reason, the doctors didn't take into account I was a TBI patient, and I shouldn't have gone under. They tried to bring me through. They couldn't bring me through. stopped breathing, and I come out of that hospital, out of that surgery, intubated.
As I sat in that waiting room, I felt the presence of God and just the blanket of prayer that enveloped that room. And I really believe to this day that it was because of God and because of prayer that Eric made it through that. Just hours later, he was up and walking again. And it was a full-on miracle. The doctor said it was miraculous that not only was he alive, but he was talking and walking on his own. And so I just really credit God for intervening, but also the community of people around us who prayed us through that time.
That was wild and crazy and out of control, but I got through it. I might have a lot of scars on my body right now, but I feel stronger for it. I feel like more resilient. And I feel like it made me who I am today, able to really approach any situation, fully knowing and being aware of my surroundings and knowing the posture I need to take to fight something. And what I've learned and embraced is that faith I have as a soldier. So I took what I had, that hard charging nature of a soldier, I embraced that and I applied it to my faith. And I attack life now the same way, but with the perspective of my faith. And if I can say anything to anyone right now, I believe we can all do that. We don't have to be victims to our circumstances. No matter what, because I'm telling you right now, I still have disabilities. I still have things that play against me. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that everything's gonna be perfect, because it's not gonna be perfect. We live in a fallible world. Things fall apart all the time. But how we choose to overcome it is what counts. And that's what I choose to embrace as my faith, as a soldier. I never look at it any other way, but I will overcome this in the name of Jesus. I embrace my relationship with Him, and that's how I overcome. And I encourage everyone to do the same thing, because there's hope. God doesn't leave you. He doesn't forsake you. He doesn't abandon you like I thought He had. He's actually there in the worst of circumstances, and He wants to help you through it now. And that's what I want to encourage everyone, to just embrace that presence of God, trust Him, and just watch what He can do.